Dr. Maya Chen never expected to be the last line of defense for humanity. 3 months ago, she had been performing routine surgeries at Boston Memorial Hospital. Today, she was crouched behind the twisted metal remains of a medical transport shuttle, clutching a makeshift field kit to her chest as alien artillery fire shrieked overhead. Status report. Maya shouted into her comms unit, voice hoarse from the acrid smoke that permeated the battlefield. The once verdant plains of the Midwest farming belt had been reduced to a charred wasteland in just 14 days of combat. 6 wounded incoming, document ETA 2 minutes, came the crackling response from Lieutenant Rivera. 2 critical. We've lost Davis. Maya closed her eyes for a single heartbeat, allowing herself precisely 1 moment of grief before compartmentalizing. Davis had been 19. A farm kid from Nebraska who'd volunteered the moment the Krex warships had appeared in Earth's orbit. Another name for the memorial, if humanity survived long enough to build one. Copy that. I'll be ready, she replied, already unpacking her surgical tools with practiced efficiency. Her fingers brushed against the battered photo tucked into her kit, her sister Ellie and niece Zoe, smiling from the safety of the Denver underground bunker. At least, Maya hoped they were still safe. The Krex had arrived without warning or diplomatic overture. Their hulking obsidian ships had simply appeared, dark silhouettes against the moon, before they began their methodical assault on Earth's major population centers. Their technology was centuries beyond humanity's most advanced weapons systems. Their bioarmored warriors stood 9 feet tall, with 4 arms and exoskeletons that could repel most conventional ammunition. By all reasonable metrics, humanity should have fallen within days, but the Krex had made a critical error in their strategic calculations. They had dismissed humans as primitive, predictable, and weak. They hadn't accounted for human adaptability, creativity, or sheer stubborn determination. They certainly hadn't accounted for people like Maya Chen. The ground trembled as a Krex artillery shell impacted nearby, showering her position with debris. Maya instinctively covered her medical supplies with her body. The wounded would need every sterile bandage and dose of synthetic clotting agent she had left. Incoming, shouted a soldier, and moments later, the battered transport skidded to a halt beside her makeshift field hospital, little more than a canvas tarp strung between shattered concrete pillars. Maya was already moving, triaging patients as they were carried off the transport. A woman with shrapnel embedded in her torso. A man with third-degree plasma burns across his chest. A young soldier barely conscious with a traumatic amputation below the knee. Miller, pressure on this wound. Maya directed one of her assistants, a former high school teacher who'd proven to have steady hands. Jackson, start and 4 on the burn victim. Her world narrowed to the wounded before her. The sounds of battle, the whine of alien energy weapons, the staccato response of human gunfire, the earth-shaking rumble of Krex war machines faded to background noise as she worked. 6 hours later, Maya straightened her back, wincing at the sharp pain that lanced through her overtaxed muscles. 5 of the 6 wounded would survive, at least for now. The soldier with the plasma burns across his chest had been beyond her abilities, beyond any human medicine. She'd made him comfortable in his final moments, holding his hand as he'd whispered a message for his mother. Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Rivera approached, his face streaked with soot and blood, some his own, some belonging to the wounded he'd helped transport. Commands ordered a full retreat. The Krex have broken through the western perimeter. We need to evacuate. Maya nodded, already calculating what supplies she could transport and what would have to be abandoned. How long? 20 minutes, maybe less. I need more time for the critical patients. An explosion rocked the makeshift medical station, closer than any previous impact. The concussive force knocked Maya off her feet, sending her sprawling onto the blood-soaked ground. As she pushed herself up, ears ringing, Maya saw it, a Krex scout walker, its 3 articulated legs carrying the armored body across the broken landscape with terrifying speed. The walker's weapon ports glowed with charged energy as it scanned for targets. It had spotted their position. Get the patients on the transport. Maya shouted, scrambling toward the supply cache where she knew Rivera kept a rocket launcher, one of the few human weapons that had proven effective against Krex armor. Rivera was already moving, directing the remaining medical personnel to evacuate the wounded. Doc, what are you doing? Get to the transport. Maya's fingers closed around the launcher's grip. She'd never fired one before, but she'd watched Rivera demonstrate the weapon enough times. Point, Charge, fire. Simple in theory. I'll buy you time, she said, not recognizing her own voice, calm, determined, certain. That's suicide, Doc. Then make sure it counts, Maya replied, hefting the launcher onto her shoulder. Get them out of here, Lieutenant. That's an order. Before Rivera could argue further, Maya was running not away from the approaching walker, but toward it, zigzagging between chunks of rubble for cover. The Krex machine paused, as if confused by the lone human charging toward it rather than fleeing. That hesitation gave Maya the moment she needed. She skidded to a stop behind a shattered wall, took a deep breath, and swung the launcher up. The targeting system hummed as it locked onto the walker's central mass. The Krex machine spotted her and pivoted, its weapon ports flaring blue with deadly energy. Maya fired. The rocket streaked through the smoky air, impacting the walker's midsection with a thunderous explosion. The machine staggered, its front leg buckling. But it didn't fall. Instead, it reoriented toward Maya, weapons charging for a killing shot. She closed her eyes, the image of Ellie and Zoe fixed in her mind. The shot never came. Instead, a deafening roar filled the air as a squadron of human fighter jets screamed overhead, releasing a barrage of missiles at the damaged walker. The combined firepower accomplished what Maya's single rocket couldn't. The walker collapsed in a spectacular eruption of flame and twisted metal. Maya stood shakily, disbelieving her own survival, as a combat-scarred Humvee skidded to a stop beside her. Get in, shouted a familiar voice. Captain Marcus Way, leader of the resistance in this sector. Unless you're planning to take on the entire Krex army single-handedly, Dr. Chen. Maya climbed into the vehicle, her body suddenly remembering all its aches and injuries now that immediate death wasn't imminent. The medical transport, she asked as Way accelerated away from the advancing Krex forces. Away safely, Way confirmed. Rivera radioed that you needed extraction. Said something about a crazy doctor with a rocket launcher. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt the ghost of a smile tug at her lips. Just doing my part, Captain. Well, your part is about to get a lot more complicated, Way said, his expression grim as he handed her a tablet. Command has a new assignment for you. Priority Alpha. Maya looked down at the screen, confusion furrowing her brow as she read the classified briefing. Then her eyes widened. Is this confirmed? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Way nodded, eyes fixed on the treacherous road ahead. It is. And you're the only one qualified to do something about it. Maya stared at the tablet, at the images of Krex physiology captured by resistance spies, at the medical data that revealed an unexpected vulnerability in the supposedly invincible aliens. I'll need a lab, she said finally. And samples. You'll have both, Way promised. If this works, it has to work, Maya interrupted, a fierce determination hardening her voice. Because if it doesn't, humanity doesn't have much time left. As they sped toward the hidden resistance base, Maya's mind was already racing, analyzing the Krex biological data, formulating theories and potential approaches. For the first time since the invasion began, she felt something dangerous flicker in her chest. Hope, the underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, had once been a government black site. Now it served as one of humanity's last scientific outposts. Maya stood in the reinforced laboratory, surrounded by the most advanced equipment Earth could still provide, studying the magnified image of Krex cellular structure displayed on the holographic projector. They're not as different from us as we thought, she murmured, more to herself than to Dr. Abernathy, the geneticist who'd been assigned to her team. Different enough, Abernathy replied, adjusting his glasses. Their cellular regeneration rate is remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. Yes, but look at the protein markers, Maya said, manipulating the hologram to zoom in further. There's a pattern here, a vulnerability. 3 weeks had passed since Maya had been brought to the facility. 3 weeks of relentless work, analyzing the Krex biological samples recovered by Special Forces teams at great cost. 3 weeks while the alien forces continued their inexorable advance across the globe, humanity's defensive lines buckling under the assault. The latest reports estimated that 40% of Earth's surface was now under Krex control. Resistance remained fierce, humans fighting for their homes with increasingly desperate tactics, but the outcome seemed inevitable to most. Maya refused to accept inevitability. The Krex have 4 lymphatic systems, she explained, highlighting the relevant structures on the hologram. It's why they're so resistant to toxins and pathogens. But this fourth system, it's different. Abernathy leaned closer, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten. An immunological vulnerability? Not exactly, Maya said. More like an evolutionary remnant. My theory is that the Krex evolved on a world with specific environmental challenges that this system helped them overcome. But if we could develop something that targets this system specifically, a biological weapon? Abernathy asked, his voice dropping to a whisper despite the secure location. Maya shook her head. Not a weapon. A treatment. Something that disrupts their regenerative capabilities without killing them. If we can deploy it widely enough, it could level the playing field. Even if that's possible, developing something like that would take years under normal circumstances, Abernathy pointed out. We have days, maybe weeks. Then we don't sleep, Maya said simply, her determination unwavering. We've mapped their genome. We have the samples. Now we work. For the next 72 hours, Maya and her team worked without pause, catching sleep in brief shifts on cots set up in the lab. They tested and discarded hundreds of potential formulations, each failure pushing them closer to the breakthrough they desperately needed. On the fourth day, as Maya was examining yet another failed test result, an alarm blared throughout the facility. Proximity alert, announced the automated security system. Unidentified aircraft approaching. All personnel to secure positions. Maya's heart raced. Had the Krex discovered their location? The facility was supposed to be undetectable, shielded from the aliens' advanced scanning technology. Captain Wei burst into the lab, his uniform disheveled, eyes alert. We need to move the research. Now. What's happening? Maya demanded, already gathering the most critical data tablets. One of our teams is coming in hot, pursued by Krex interceptors, Wei explained, helping Abernathy secure biological samples in a portable containment unit. If they're tracked here, I can't leave, Maya interrupted. We're close to a breakthrough. If we evacuate now, we lose weeks of progress. Wei's expression hardened. That's not a request, Doctor. We have protocols. Protocols won't matter if we can't develop this treatment, Maya countered. You brought me here because I'm the best chance humanity has. Let me do my job. A tense silence stretched between them, broken only by the continuing alarm and the hurried movements of other researchers evacuating nearby labs. Finally, Wei spoke into his comm unit. Secure Lab 7. Dr. Chen and her team are continuing critical work. I want a full security detail. To Maya, he added, you have 2 hours. If the situation escalates, I'm pulling you out regardless of your progress. Clear. Maya nodded, already turning back to her work. Crystal. As Wei left to coordinate the facility's defense, Maya gathered her team. Focus, everyone. We're running out of time. Outside, the sounds of combat grew closer, the distinctive whine of Krex energy weapons countered by the thunder of human anti-aircraft guns. The facility shuddered as impact struck the mountainside above. Maya blocked it all out, her world narrowing to the microscopic battle being waged in the samples before her. Each formulation tested, analyzed, refined, discarded. Hours compressed into a blur of desperate scientific inquiry. Dr. Chen called one of her assistants, voice tight with suppressed excitement. Sample 37C is showing a reaction. Maya hurried to the testing station, hardly daring to hope. On the monitor, Krex cells displayed a clear change in behavior, their remarkable regenerative properties visibly slowing. Increase the concentration, she directed. Let's see if we can amplify the effect. As they worked, the facility shook with another impact, closer than before. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. Time's almost up, Doc, said the security officer stationed at the lab entrance. Captain Wei says we need to move. 5 more minutes, Maya insisted, not looking up from the sample. The revised formulation was introduced to the Krex tissue sample. For several agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, before their eyes, the cells began to change, not dying, but transforming, their regenerative capabilities dramatically reduced. It's working, breathed Abernathy, disbelief and hope mingling in his voice. My God, it's actually working. Maya allowed herself one moment of elation before snapping back to scientist mode. Document everything. Secure the formula. We need to be ready. The laboratory door slid open, and Captain Wei entered with 2 heavily armed soldiers. We're evacuating. Now. His tone left no room for argument. We've done it, Maya said, carefully transferring the successful formulation to a secure container. We found a way to neutralize their biological advantage. For the first time since she'd known him, Wei smiled, a brief flash of genuine emotion quickly contained. Then let's make sure it reaches the people who can use it. As they hurried through the facility's evacuation tunnels, Maya clutched the container to her chest. Inside was humanity's best hope, not a weapon of mass destruction, but a carefully crafted treatment that could strip away the Krex's seemingly insurmountable biological superiority. Where are we going? She asked as they boarded a camouflaged transport vehicle. Denver Command, Wei replied, checking his weapon. The Resistance leadership needs to see this immediately. Maya's heart leapt. Denver? My sister and niece are in the bunkers there. Wei nodded. If all goes well, maybe you'll get to see them. The transport rumbled out of a concealed mountain exit, immediately activating its advanced stealth systems. Above them, the night sky was lit by the exchange of weapons fire as human aircraft engaged Krex pursuers. Maya watched the battle through the transport's reinforced viewport, acutely aware of the precious cargo she carried. If they could deliver it safely, if it could be mass-produced and deployed. A particularly bright explosion illuminated the sky, and Maya caught sight of a Krex warship in the distance, its massive silhouette dominating the horizon. She thought of Davis, the young Nebraska farm boy who'd never seen 19. Of the patients she'd treated, bearing wounds unimaginable before the invasion. Of Ellie and Zoe, hiding in underground bunkers while aliens took their world. This will work, she said quietly, her voice steel. It has to. The Denver Resistance Command Center had been established in what was once a major military installation. Now it served as the nerve center for humanity's desperate defense in the Western Territories. Maya stood before the assembled leadership, military commanders, scientific advisors, and civilian representatives as she presented her team's findings. The treatment targets the Krex fourth lymphatic system, she explained, gesturing to the holographic display showing the alien physiology. It doesn't kill them, but it significantly reduces their enhanced healing abilities and physical resilience. In effect, it makes them more like us. General Harriet Yamato, Supreme Commander of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, studied the data with narrowed eyes. And you're certain this works? No chance they could develop resistance. No treatment is foolproof, Maya admitted. But we've run every simulation possible. The Krex regenerative capability is hardwired into their biology. This doesn't just suppress it temporarily, it fundamentally alters it. Admiral Chen, no relation to Maya, though the coincidence had raised eyebrows, leaned forward. The delivery method is the critical question. We can't exactly ask the Krex to line up for injections. A ripple of tense laughter moved through the room. Dr. Abernathy stepped forward. We've developed 2 delivery systems. The first is an aerosol that can be dispersed through standard military deployment systems, aircraft, drones, even handheld units. The second is more targeted ammunition coated with a concentrated form of the treatment. Either way, Maya continued, once the treatment enters their system, it works quickly. Within hours, their cellular regeneration drops to near human levels. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had been outmatched not just technologically, but biologically. The Krex could survive wounds that would kill humans instantly, could fight longer without rest, could recover from injuries in days that would take humans months to heal from. If they survived at all, this treatment wouldn't give humans a technological advantage, but it would remove a critical Krex biological superiority. It would make the fight, if not fair, then at least possible to win. How quickly can we produce this? General Yamato asked. We've simplified the formula for mass production, Maya answered. With the facilities we have left, we could begin limited deployment within 48 hours. Full-scale production would take another week. The Krex are planning a major offensive against the Asian Alliance's defensive line in 3 days, said Admiral Chen. If we could deploy this before then, we'd have to concentrate our initial production, Maya acknowledged. Focus on that front first, then expand as production increases. General Yamato stood, her decision made. Make it happen. Every resource we have left is at your disposal, Dr. Chen. As the meeting dispersed, Maya found herself momentarily alone, the weight of humanity's hopes pressing down on her shoulders. The treatment wasn't a miracle cure or a superweapon, just a carefully crafted equalization, giving humans a fighting chance where before they'd had almost none. Captain Wei approached, interrupting her thoughts. You did it, document. Maya shook her head. We haven't done anything yet. Not until it's deployed, not until we see if it works in actual combat conditions. Still, Wei insisted, this is the first real hope we've had since they arrived. You should be proud. Before Maya could respond, an aide hurried over. Dr. Chen. There's someone here to see you. Maya turned, and her heart stopped. Standing across the command center, looking thinner and more tired than when she'd last seen her, but unmistakably alive, was her sister Ellie, and beside her, Zoe. Maya crossed the distance in seconds, enveloping them both in a fierce embrace, tears flowing freely for the first time since the invasion began. We thought you were dead, Ellie whispered, holding her sister tightly. When Boston fell, we thought I'm okay, Maya assured her, dropping to one knee to look at 8-year-old Zoe. I'm okay, and I'm so happy to see you both. Zoe, solemn-eyed in a way no child should be, asked, are you going to make the aliens go away, Aunt Maya? Maya hesitated, unwilling to offer false promises. I'm working on something that might help, she said carefully. A lot of people are working very hard to make us safe again. Ellie squeezed her sister's hand. They told us what you've been doing. That you might have found a way to fight back. It's not a weapon, Maya explained. It just levels the playing field a little. Sometimes that's all you need, Ellie said with quiet confidence. Their reunion was cut short by alarms blaring throughout the command center. Red emergency lights pulsed, and personnel rushed to battle stations. Captain Wei appeared at Maya's side. Krex forces have launched a surprise offensive. They're targeting Denver, specifically this facility. Maya's blood ran cold. How? How did they know? Unknown, Wei said grimly. But we need to evacuate the research team and the production equipment immediately. Maya looked at Ellie and Zoe, fear gripping her heart. My family, they'll be evacuated with the civilian contingent, Wei assured her. But you need to come with me now, Doctor. We can't lose you or your research. Ellie gripped Maya's arm. Go. We'll be fine. Do what you need to do. With a final, fierce hug, Maya reluctantly separated from her family, following Wei toward the research section while Ellie and Zoe were directed to the civilian evacuation point. The treatment formula, is it secure? Maya asked as they hurried through crowded corridors. Wei nodded. Multiple encrypted backups, distributed to secure locations globally. Even if we lose this facility, the research is safe. And the production equipment? Being loaded onto transports as we speak, Wei confirmed. But we need you to oversee the emergency relocation. The technical aspects. An explosion rocked the facility, cutting Wei off mid-sentence. The lights flickered, and emergency sirens intensified. Perimeter breach, announced the automated system. Hostile forces have entered the facility. All personnel initiate Protocol Omega. Wei's expression darkened. They're moving faster than we anticipated. We need to expedite the evacuation. As they reached the research section, chaos reigned. Scientists and military personnel scrambled to secure equipment and research materials. The distinctive sound of Krex energy weapons could be heard in the distance, growing closer. Dr. Abernathy. Maya called, spotting her colleague directing the evacuation of biological samples. Status? Critical components are already loaded, he reported. Production prototype is 80% secure. We need another 10 minutes for the synthetic culture medium. You may not have 10 minutes, Wei warned, checking his tactical display. Krex forces are advancing through Sector 7. That puts them 4 minutes away, Maya finished, making a rapid decision. Captain, get Dr. Abernathy and the team out with what they've already secured. I'll finish loading the culture medium. Absolutely not, Wei objected. You're the irreplaceable asset here, Doctor. The formula is backed up, but this batch of culture medium is the only one we have, Maya countered. Without it, production is delayed by days, possibly weeks. I know exactly what needs to be preserved. Go. Wei hesitated, clearly torn, then made a tactical decision. 5 minutes. Then we extract, with or without the medium. As the others evacuated, Maya worked with focused intensity, identifying the critical components of the synthetic medium and packing them into specialized containment units. Each container was heavy, designed to withstand extreme conditions, and time was running out. The sounds of battle grew louder, human weapons fire, shouted commands, and the distinctive high-energy discharge of Krex weapons. The facility shuddered with impacts, dust and debris raining from the ceiling. Maya had just secured the final container when the laboratory doors blasted inward. She dove behind a reinforced workstation as 2 Krex warriors entered 9-foot-tall armored figures, their 4 arms carrying advanced energy weapons, their helmeted heads swiveling as they scanned for human targets. Maya's breathing sounded thunderous to her own ears as she crouched in hiding, the precious container clutched to her chest. Her gaze fell on an experimental aerosol dispenser loaded with the treatment, one of the prototypes they'd developed for testing. It sat on a nearby workbench, just out of reach. The Krex moved methodically through the laboratory, destroying equipment and research materials. Soon, they would find her. Maya made a desperate calculation. If she could reach the dispenser, if it worked as designed, it might give her a chance. Not to defeat the Krex, she harbored no illusions about winning a direct confrontation, but perhaps to escape with the culture medium. Taking a deep breath, Maya lunged from cover, grabbing the dispenser and rolling behind another workstation as Krex energy weapons discharged, superheating the air where she'd been moments before. With shaking hands, she activated the dispenser, setting it to maximum concentration. As the Krex warriors converged on her position, Maya threw the device directly at them and covered her face with her arm. The dispenser exploded in a cloud of fine mist that enveloped the Krex. For a moment, nothing happened. The aliens continued their advance, seemingly unaffected. Then, almost imperceptibly, their movements changed, becoming slower, less fluid. One stumbled, catching itself on a nearby table. The other shook its helmeted head, as if to clear it. Maya didn't wait to see more. Clutching the container, she sprinted for the emergency exit, expecting at any second to feel the searing impact of an energy weapon between her shoulder blades. It never came. She burst through the exit to find Captain Wei and a squad of soldiers waiting. Got it, she gasped, holding up the container. The treatment works. I just saw it. Wei's eyes widened. You deployed it? Against live Krex? Not by choice, Maya said, allowing herself to be hustled into an armored transport. But yes, and they slowed down, became disoriented. It was working just as we predicted. As the transport pulled away from the facility, now partially consumed by flames and continuing explosions, Wei radioed the information to command. This changes our immediate strategy, he said after receiving orders. Production of the treatment is now priority alpha. We're being redirected to Facility Omega. Maya settled back, the adrenaline beginning to ebb, leaving her shaky and exhausted. My sister and niece? Were they evacuated safely? Wei nodded. Civilian transports cleared the area before the main assault. They're en route to the southern safe zone. Relief washed through Maya, followed by a grim determination. She had glimpsed firsthand what the treatment could do. It wasn't a magic bullet, but it offered something humanity had been lacking since the invasion began, a realistic chance. As the transport sped through the night, evading Krex patrols, Maya knew that the war had entered a new phase. For the first time, humanity wasn't just fighting to survive another day, they were fighting to win. 6 weeks later, Maya stood on the observation deck of the USS Defiance, watching the sunrise illuminate the coastline of what had once been Southern California. The massive aircraft carrier, one of the few major naval vessels to survive the initial invasion, now served as the floating headquarters for the Pacific Resistance Command. Beautiful, isn't it? Said Admiral Chen, joining her at the reinforced viewport. Easy to forget what we're fighting for when you're stuck in underground bunkers and research labs. Maya nodded, eyes fixed on the distant shore. How's the deployment proceeding? Better than we dared hope, Chen replied, handing her a tablet with the latest tactical updates. The aerosol dispersal over Australia was 97% effective. Krex forces there are in full retreat for the first time since the invasion began. Maya scrolled through the data, analyzing the medical reports with a scientist's critical eye. The treatment had performed even better in the field than in their controlled tests. Once exposed, Krex soldiers lost their biological advantages within hours. Their legendary resilience, their ability to continue fighting despite injuries that would incapacitate humans, their rapid healing all dramatically reduced. The playing field, while not completely level, had shifted significantly. And the side effects? Maya asked, remembering her concerns about the treatment's long-term impact. As predicted, Chen confirmed. No fatalities attributed directly to the treatment. Some Krex appear to experience respiratory distress and impaired coordination, but nothing life-threatening. This had been Maya's insistence from the beginning, that the treatment would not be weaponized into something lethal. Humanity would win this war through strategy and determination, not genocide. They would not become monsters to defeat monsters. The European Command begins their offensive tomorrow, Chen continued. If it succeeds, we'll control a third of the territory the Krex had occupied. And our operation? Maya asked. Final preparations are underway. The assault team is ready. They're just waiting for Dr. Chen. A young officer hurried toward them, tablet in hand. Urgent communication from Captain Wei. He says they've secured the package. Maya's pulse quickened. The prisoners? The officer nodded. Extracted safely. They're en route to the Defiance now. For weeks, special forces had been attempting to capture Krex officers alive, a nearly impossible task given their tendency to fight to the death. But intelligence suggested that the aliens operated with a strict hierarchical command structure. Understanding that hierarchy, possibly establishing communication, could be crucial to ending the conflict. I need to prepare, Maya said, already moving toward the ship's central elevator. How long until they arrive? Approximately 1 hour, the officer replied. Admiral Chen called after her, remember the protocols, Doctor. Whatever we learn from these prisoners determines our next strategic moves. Maya acknowledged the reminder with a nod as the elevator doors closed. In her modified medical bay, she found Dr. Abernathy already preparing the specialized containment area they designed for Krex subjects. Everything's ready, he reported. Atmosphere, temperature, restraints all calibrated to Krex physiology based on our latest data. And the translation system? Maya asked, reviewing the medical equipment. The linguists have uploaded their most recent algorithm. It's still imperfect, but it should facilitate basic communication. Maya had fought for this opportunity against considerable opposition. Many military leaders had wanted to simply interrogate the Krex using conventional methods. Maya had argued that understanding the aliens, their biology, their communication, their motivations, was as important as defeating them militarily. They came here for a reason, she had insisted during the contentious planning session. Not just conquest for conquest's sake. Something drove them to target Earth specifically. If we understand what, we might find a way to end this without further bloodshed. Her reputation as the developer of the treatment that had turned the tide of war had given her words weight they might otherwise have lacked. The hour passed in meticulous preparation. When the alert came that the transport had arrived, Maya felt a curious mix of scientific anticipation and profound apprehension. Captain Wei met her at the secure docking bay, his expression grim. 3 prisoners, as requested. One appears to be a high-ranking officer, based on armor markings. The other 2 are standard warriors. Casualties? Maya asked. 7 of ours, Wei reported. Would have been more, but your treatment worked. We hit them with aerosol dispersers before the assault. Made a significant difference. The prisoners were transferred with maximum security to the specialized medical bay. Even restrained and affected by the treatment, the Krex were intimidating, the smallest standing over 8 feet tall, their armored exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh lights. Maya approached cautiously, aware of the armed guards positioned around the room. The lead Krex, distinguished by elaborate markings on its armor, fixed 4 yellow eyes on her, its facial structure alien yet somehow expressing what seemed like contempt. I am Dr. Maya Chen, she said clearly, allowing the translation system to process her words. I wish to understand why you came to our world. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then the translation system crackled as the Krex officer emitted a series of clicks and harmonic tones. Your understanding is irrelevant, came the translated approximation. Your resistance is temporary. The harvest cannot be stopped. Maya exchanged glances with Abernathy. The harvest? What do you mean by that term? Another series of alien vocalizations. Your world contains the enzyme. The great cycle requires it. Your species is an obstacle to be removed. Over the next 3 hours, through careful questioning and imperfect translation, a picture emerged that changed humanity's understanding of the invasion entirely. The Krex weren't primarily interested in Earth for territorial expansion or resources as humans understood them. They sought a specific biological compound produced by certain deep-sea creatures in Earth's oceans, a compound critical to the Krex reproductive cycle, which was facing a crisis on their homeworld. They're dying out, Maya explained to the assembled command staff later that day. Their species is facing extinction due to a biological mutation affecting their reproduction. This compound, which they call the enzyme, can reverse the mutation. So they decided to exterminate us to harvest it? General Yamato asked incredulously. From their perspective, we're simply an obstacle, Maya replied. They attempted to communicate when they first arrived, but their methods were incompatible with our technology. When we responded defensively, they determined that elimination was the most efficient approach. Admiral Chen leaned forward. Can this enzyme be synthesized? Provided to them without requiring our extinction? Theoretically, yes, Dr. Abernathy answered. With their biological data and our understanding of the compound, we could potentially develop a synthetic version. You're suggesting we help the species that's been systematic.